Oh, Lindsay, quite a milestone this weekend. According to us, it's your 300th first team game for Rovers in all competitions. That's quite an achievement. You must be quite proud of that.
Yeah, obviously massively proud. If you'd have told me that 10 years ago, I probably would have laughed at you. Obviously, being released by the club when I was 14, 15, and then going off and working in Tesco, doing some plastering, doing anything I could really to make a bit of money while I was at college. I would, like I say, I would have laughed at you. I would have said no chance. But yes, here they've sort of flown by really.
That start, it was quite a strange start, wasn't it? Being released and then going to college and then coming back in.
Yeah, it was obviously lucky that the college and the Rovers sort of built up that link, and that enabled me to obviously play in the reserves again, which was when Trolls and Lenny sort of spotted me, and obviously they started sort of doing it a little bit more properly with giving out professional contracts, because I think when I first came in and when I was on the bench it was Ian Atkins, and I was sort of on some non-contract basis and probably pretty much there just to make sure there was enough players on the bench really, but it was good. Like you say, it was a bit of a stop-start kind of beginning to it all, but the last sort of probably 7-8 seasons has been pretty consistent, 40-50 games, so that's probably how it's built up to that high.
You remember that first game against Chester? I was kit man that game, so I remember it quite well.
Of course I do, mate, yeah. I seen a picture the other day actually, me and Darren Mullins, I think he's playing for Gloucester now, we played against him pre-season, we were the two at the time to sort of be breaking through, so yeah, I remember it. I think we were either 2-0 up or 2-1 up. I think I came on with about 15 minutes to go. It was just a blur, to be fair. I think I made a big tackle, which was still probably the best tackle I've ever made, and probably one of the only 5 tackles I've ever made in my career. So I remember that, because a few of the younger lads who were there that day did remind me. But yeah, you'll always remember that. I got a picture of it at home. Me on the pitch, and I think I've got a picture of me and you actually where you're
walking across.
Yeah, and there's another one of when I'm coming on and Trolls is giving me a pat on the back, and since then it's been obviously ups and downs, especially at this place, but I think I'm not far off, about 450 in total for every club since then, so it's something, if you get to 500, that's massive. I mean, a lot of people play their whole careers and don't really get to where I am now, so it's a good one. And
with Rovers, 3 promotions, and no one's ever done that, so that's another milestone for you, really.
Yes.
First one was back in 2007.
Yeah, it's crazy, really, when you think about it. It's sort of people sort of don't really think about it until you say it. It's obviously special for me because I grew up watching on the terraces, and I think the first game I travelled to was Wickham away, and obviously I had my shirt up with my number on and stuff. That was when Ian Atkins was manager, and I think literally 2 weeks before I was stood in the platform and watching, so it was a bit crazy to be going in the dressing room and having, seeing that number with your name is sort of every young lad's dream, and from there it's just been a lot of hard work. That's what people forget, mainly, it's hard work. There's been stressful times, being in my hometown, and it's that extra added pressure for me, being a supporter, being from Bristol and spending most of my career here. But there's been some good times, like you say. 3 promotions is great, especially with the club I supported when I was a young lad.
The first spell at Rovers, was it a little bit of a falling out of love with the club at that time?
You could say that, yeah. It's a strange one, because obviously you come in as a supporter and gradually you realise what actually does go on in a football club, and it was ups and downs at that time, and it was difficult for me, and at that time it was probably it was a difficult decision leaving, but at the time I was probably put in a position where I didn't really have much choice. I stated that I wanted to stay, but obviously I didn't get selected in the first game, which was obviously I knew was for some kind of political reasons, but it's all in the past now, and I moved to Sheffield Wednesday and got a promotion straight away there, so I couldn't have done too bad the season before. I know it was a bad season for the club, we got relegated, but obviously my personal performances must have been good enough for Gary Megson to come looking and to sign me for Wednesday, which, you know, I didn't really realise then what I was stepping into until you step out on Hillsborough and there's 25,000 in a League One home game. So yeah, it was great. And then obviously when I did come back, it's pretty much all been success since then.
Well, your time away, I think you grew up a lot as a person and as a footballer. I don't know if you agree with that.
Yeah, definitely. It was, like I say, living in Bristol, I was around all my friends. So obviously other influences when you're living around all your friends, you're a young lad. It's difficult. You don't really get any advice. You know, I obviously didn't have a father figure at the time, so it was pretty much just take myself forward and look after myself. Obviously my mum used to shout at me and stuff, but it's a bit different than your dad being there to obviously grab you and say, come on, what are you doing? But I don't really think my football ever was affected, but it was a great thing moving away. It gave me a lot more time on my own. Obviously I didn't really have any close friends up there. I obviously couldn't come back down and see my family that often because it was so far. So I had a lot of time just chilling out, relaxing on my own, and playing for a club like that and under a manager who's worked at the top level was a massive learning curve. And you're right, it has made a big effect on me. And since I came back, I think that kind of has showed in my performances, and obviously the club's been successful as well.
Took a lot, I would think, to come back to a club that were in the conference, because Rovers were when you came back.
Yeah.
Was that a big factor? Was it because it was Rovers you came back?
Yeah, it was. At the time, I was having a stop-start season at Port Vale. That I was injured. I had a few suspensions. I actually got on really well with the manager, Rob Page, and we'd often have a chat about, me. I was obviously at the time travelling back up and forward to see my family and see my little girl at the time, and it was probably affecting my performances because sitting on the motorway for 2 hours 3-4 times a week is going to affect anyone. But obviously that's when you've got family back home. That was when I sort of started thinking, it'd be nice to be a bit closer to Bristol. And I was sort of, I think, probably 28, 29 then, so if ever there was a time to maybe come back, it would have been then. So obviously I think my agent at the time was looking for loan moves, etc. He didn't actually mention Rovers once, obviously thinking I'd be just like, no way. But I just woke up one day, I might have gone home and my mum might have mentioned something like, or whatever, and I looked at the situation. It was sort of hit and miss, wasn't it? I could have come back and played badly and we could have missed out on the playoffs, and probably a chance I'll be back up at Port Vale by then. So, but there's a chance I was willing to take. I knew obviously my ability at that level was going to be above what most players in that league were, so I thought, this is my chance to try and make an effect on the team. And I'd like to think that I did. I think since I came in, we pretty much won every game. We drew a couple we didn't lose, and obviously played a big part in the final. So that was a dream come true, and it's sort of everything went right and got the fans a little bit back on side, obviously, leaving a team that were relegated. And that season there was a lot of moans and groans with us players, but coming back and doing that, well, in the second season in a row, sort of maybe got the fans back on side and believing in me and what I can do again.
Yeah. And you actually still seem to be improving. I don't know if you feel that, but you said in previous interviews how your diet has changed and how you're looking after yourself more to prolong your career.
Yeah, my whole lifestyle's different now. Obviously with my little girl, she's 1, and it's non-stop, and with my missus going back to work after the baby, I spend a lot of time looking after the little one and stuff like that. So it's for that reason I have to look after myself, because I can't be, when I'm waking up with at 6:30, 7 in the morning, I can't be like, oh God, I've got to take her to nursery and stuff. And it's nice. I like being up early now, because before I'd get up and I'd stumble into training, have a bit of breakfast on the way or whatever and get there with about 15 minutes before we had to be there. But now I'm up early and I'm in training. I'm being awake by 3 hours by the time we start. So it's a weird one, yeah. Like obviously I've been the one to take it on myself to make sure I look after myself and my body and what I'm eating, drinking and stuff like that. And I think that's important for everyone when they're over 30, but not too many people take it too seriously. It's just one of them, really. Obviously doing it the way I feel good, and hopefully I'm playing 90 minutes, or at least most of the 90 minutes, most games, and I'm training. I haven't missed a day training, so something must be working.
So, I mean, do you feel your performances are still improving?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm 32 next month, so it's not normally how it works. You sort of say your prime sort of 26, 27, but yeah, the last 2-3 seasons especially, I've felt good, and every week I feel good going out there, and it's good. I've got a great bunch of lads around me, and as a team we play really well, and I know what my role in the team is now. At times I've been dropped a bit deeper, which the gaffer's done, and obviously that saves me running as much. When I was here before, I'd just be running up and down all day. Like, positioning probably wasn't great, but I probably got a few more goals just due to the fact I was getting in the box every time. But now it's a little bit more defensive, and maybe more emphasis on just making us tick over, getting on the ball. So
you're probably a more disciplined player.
Yeah, definitely. I think that comes with age, doesn't it? You sort of learn the game, and you learn where you. Obviously, defending's never been a massive side of my game, but at early stages I never really had to worry about it as much. But since I came back here, the gaffer's big on me doing that defensive side. So hats off to him for triggering that little bit of me that has made me start focusing a little bit more on that as well.
Still ambitious?
Yeah, no, I'm feeling good. I want to play as long as I can, obviously, and if I can get another promotion, it'd be great. But just to keep winning and being at this club now is probably the best feeling the fans and the players have had for a long time now. So it's nice to be here, and long may it continue.
Just finally, and it's a personal question. You mentioned your dad earlier, but he was a big influence when you were younger, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Obviously, he was the one that took me to all the games, and to Worton, and then obviously down to the men. Yeah, he was the one that took me to all the games when I was a young lad playing as well. He'd get home from work and take me to all the, when I was playing for St Vallier, which was like a local team in Filton. So that was massive, yeah, and obviously when he passed away it was difficult, and obviously at that moment in time, like you said earlier, I'd never dreamed that you'd be sat here having this conversation with me now, playing 300 games for Rovers. So it is something I have to sometimes, scratch my head about, but it's here now, it's done, and obviously I'm sure he's watching down.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd be proud of you, so here's the next 100.